Stop. Stop running in circles. Stop chasing numbers that vanish the moment you catch them. Stop waking up every morning just to trade your time for someone else's vision. Because here's the truth they never taught you in school, the truth your job will never say out loud. Money was never meant to be your master. It was meant to be your servant. You were born to create, not just comply. You were built to design your life, not survive someone else's plan. But somewhere along the way, they got to you. They taught you how to obey, not how to build. They trained you to be safe, not wealthy. They praised you for playing it small, applauded when you stayed within the lines, and told you security is more important than freedom. And you believed it. Because they handed you a paycheck that felt like purpose, but was really a leash. A leash dressed in direct deposit. A leash disguised as comfort. A leash that tightens the more you depend on it. Understand this, wealth doesn't come from working harder. It comes from thinking differently. Robert Kiyosaki said it plain, the poor and middle class work for money. The rich make money work for them. Let that hit you. Because everything changes when it finally sinks in that you've spent your life earning money, while money has spent its life earning the rich. You show up on time, clock in, clock out. You trade hours for dollars. But the wealthy? They trade ideas for freedom. They plant seeds once and let the harvest feed them for decades. While you're working for money, they're building systems. While you're budgeting, they're buying assets. While you're clocking in, they're cashing out on real estate, stocks, businesses, royalties, passive streams that never sleep, never call in sick, never ask for a raise. Because rich people don't work harder, they think smarter. They don't ask, can I afford this? They ask, what system can I build to pay for this again and again? They understand something you were never taught. That the true definition of wealth is freedom of time. And freedom doesn't come from promotions. It doesn't come from working your way up the corporate ladder. It comes from owning the ladder. It comes from ownership, leverage, cash flow, words they don't teach in classrooms built to manufacture workers. You've been given formulas that lead to survival. But now, it's time to rewrite them for wealth. This is your awakening. Because everything you've been told about success was built to keep you working. And everything the rich do was built to keep them free. The question is, which path are you choosing? Because the moment you stop working for money and start making money work for you, you become dangerous. You become free. And freedom, my friend, is the real paycheck. So how does the shift begin? It begins with one question, the same question the greats asked themselves before they ever made a dollar. What do I want my life to look like? Not what can I afford? Not what will my salary cover? Not how can I survive until next month? But what life do I want to build, and what kind of mindset does that life require? That's the starting point. Because until you define your vision, the world will sell you theirs. The wealthy don't wake up reacting to life, they wake up executing a plan. A plan driven by clarity. And clarity is power. Not just power to make more, but to live more, with purpose. Clarity is what drove Henry Ford when everyone else was riding horses. Clarity is what pulled Walt Disney through bankruptcy and ridicule and countless failures before the world ever saw a castle. Clarity is what made Steve Jobs reject the safe path, drop out, and reimagine the way the world interacts with technology. They weren't chasing checks, they were building real wealth, freedom, fulfillment, and control over their time. And that kind of wealth? It doesn't come to the busy. It comes to the bold. Bold enough to unlearn. Bold enough to ask, why am I following a system that's failing most people? Why are schools producing employees instead of entrepreneurs? Why are banks offering you credit cards instead of education? Why are people with six-figure salaries still living paycheck to paycheck? The answer is simple. Because working for money is the slowest path to freedom. The modern world praises labor but ignores leverage. It teaches hustle but not ownership. It tells you to save but never to build. And here's the danger: if you're always working in the system, you never have time to question the system. And the system was designed to benefit those who own it. That's why Kiyosaki didn't say get a better job. He said get better assets. Assets are the true employees. They don't complain. They don't sleep. They don't age. They just produce. Real estate. Royalties. Stocks. Digital products. Businesses. Licensing. Intellectual property. These are the soldiers of the wealthy. And every dollar you earn has a choice: become a consumer or become a commander. You either spend it on fleeting comfort or assign it a mission. You either let it disappear or put it to work. So the real question isn't how do I make more money? It's how do I make money that doesn't need me to exist? Until you ask that, you're not building wealth, you're just trading years for paychecks. And your years are too expensive for that. Your time is sacred. And time, once spent, cannot be bought back. But money? Money is infinite. It flows to those who understand how it works. It obeys those who understand the rules of the game. But here's the truth they don't teach in school. You can't win a game you don't understand. And most people, they don't even know they're playing one. Most people are stuck playing a game they never signed up for. Wake up. Work. Pay bills. Repeat. They call it being responsible, but it's really just being contained. Conditioned. Controlled. Because when you don't understand money, you serve it. But when you do understand money, it serves you. And that's the difference between a wage slave and a free builder. Between survival and sovereignty. Robert Kiyosaki didn't write Rich Dad, Poor Dad to impress anyone. He wrote it to wake people up. To expose the lie, the one hiding in plain sight. That lie? That working harder will set you free. But look around. Are the hardest workers the freest? The janitor works hard. The factory worker works hard. The nurse, the teacher, the security guard, all working hard. But the wealthy? They don't work hard in the traditional sense. They work intelligently, strategically, and upfront, so their money doesn't need their presence. The difference is leverage. Leverage is the force multiplier of wealth. Leverage is how Jeff Bezos earns more in a day than most do in a lifetime, not because he works more hours, but because he built a machine. Leverage is how Elon Musk can operate multiple billion-dollar companies at once, not by adding hours to the day, but by creating systems, hiring brilliant minds, and letting money, people, and ideas compound. Meanwhile, the average person is stuck trading time for dollars. But your time should never be for sale. It should be invested. Multiplied. Protected. Think of money like a soldier. If you're sending your soldiers into battle every day, make sure they're capturing territory, not dying in retail stores, fast food lines, and overpriced subscriptions. Every dollar you spend is a soldier you lose. Every dollar you invest is a soldier that goes to war for your freedom. But the poor and middle class? They raise soldiers just to slaughter them. They earn, then spend. Earn, then consume. No thought of compounding. No vision for freedom. Just reaction. And reaction is the enemy of wealth. Reaction is the habit of the broke. But the wealthy? They respond. With intention. With vision. With strategy. Because they know money is a tool. A multiplier. A magnifier. It reflects who you are. If you're undisciplined, money will expose it. If you're wise, money will expand it. And if you're courageous, if you dare to stop following and start designing, money becomes your ally. Not your god. Not your jailer. Your ally. But that requires responsibility, not in the way school taught you, but in the way wealth demands of you. Responsibility to educate yourself financially. Responsibility to break the cycle. Responsibility to think differently. Because every generation has a link in the chain, and you get to decide if you're the one that breaks it or the one that continues it. So I ask you now, will you keep working for money? Or will you finally make money work for you? This is your turning point. Because once you see the chains, you can no longer pretend you're free. And those chains? They're invisible, forged not of steel, but of beliefs. Get a good job. Climb the corporate ladder. Save what's left. Retire at 65. This is the script handed down by generations that knew nothing else. And the tragedy is, it was never designed to create freedom, only obedience. The rich dad said it best, the moment you realize a job is a temporary solution, not a long-term plan, you start thinking differently. Jobs aren't evil. They're tools. But they are not the destination. They are the training ground, the starting line. The problem is when people stop at the starting line and build their home there. They settle. They shrink. They forget. Forget that money is just an idea. That wealth is not a number, but a mindset. That financial freedom doesn't start in your bank account, it starts in your belief system. And that's why some people with 6 figures are still broke, while others with humble beginnings rise to financial empires. Because the poor and middle class think with linear logic, work more, earn more. But the wealthy think with exponential logic, build once, get paid forever. It's not about income. It's about infrastructure. It's not about hours. It's about assets. An asset is anything that puts money into your pocket, whether you're working or not. A liability is anything that takes money out. But most people? They confuse the two. They think their car is an asset. Their house is an asset. Their fancy clothes, subscriptions, gadgets, all assets. But they're not. If it doesn't pay you, it costs you. And that's the lesson no one teaches in school. The goal is not to look rich. The goal is to be free. And freedom requires discipline. Discipline to delay gratification. Discipline to study the game, not once, not casually, but obsessively. Because the money game is rigged, not against the poor, but against the ignorant. And ignorance is a choice in the information age. You can learn more in 30 days on YouTube than most universities will teach you in 4 years. But will you? Will you trade Netflix for net worth? Will you trade gossip for growth? Will you stop chasing shiny objects and start studying compounding? Because the wealthy? They understand the rule of 72. They understand inflation. They understand cash flow, debt leverage, business structures, tax optimization, and how to make $1 do the work of $10. Not because they were born lucky, but because they trained differently. They chose financial education over entertainment. They didn't need to be the smartest. They needed to be the most committed. The most awake. Because once you're awake, you can never go back to sleep. Once you wake up, the illusion fades. You start to see the system for what it is, a loop designed to keep you working just hard enough to be tired, and paid just enough to be dependent. You start to notice the conversations that don't serve you, the ones filled with scarcity, fear, limitation. You stop taking advice from people who are broke in spirit, broke in mindset, broke in results. And something begins to burn inside you, a quiet rage, not at others, but at wasted potential. You begin to realize you weren't born to repeat someone else's cycle, you were born to break it. You were born to rewrite the rules, not just for yourself, but for everyone who comes after you. Because legacy isn't just what you leave behind, it's what you build now, with every choice, every dollar, every moment of clarity. This is about more than money. It's about sovereignty. Sovereignty over your time. Sovereignty over your choices. Sovereignty over your life. That's why financial freedom matters. Not because of Lamborghinis or luxury, but because freedom is the highest form of wealth. The ability to choose how you spend your day. Who you spend it with. Where you live. What you create. Who you become. And the moment you stop working for money and start making money work for you, you reclaim that power. Because when you buy an asset, you're buying time. When you build a business, you're building freedom. When you invest in your mind, you're compounding legacy. And legacy is the only real estate worth dying for. But don't confuse ownership with ease. The road to financial independence isn't paved in comfort. It's paved in responsibility. You'll have to unlearn what you were taught. You'll have to detach from the need for approval. You'll have to become obsessed with growth, with vision, with becoming the person capable of managing wealth. Because wealth without wisdom is just another form of destruction. But wealth in the hands of the disciplined? That's revolution. That's how Carnegie rose from poverty to philanthropy. That's how Edison failed 10,000 times and still lit the world. That's how Kiyosaki went from sleeping in his car to becoming a global voice for financial awakening. They weren't just rich. They were radically clear. Clear on who they were. Clear on what they wanted. Clear on what they were building. And that clarity became their compass. You have that same compass inside you. But it's buried under noise. Buried under doubt. Buried under years of being told to stay in line, sit down, play small. But no more. Now is the time to take your power back. Because the world doesn't need more employees. It needs owners. Leaders. Builders. People who refuse to work for money and demand that money work for them. Because here's the hard truth. If you don't build your dream, you will be hired to build someone else's. You'll clock in while their assets grow. You'll pay rent while they collect it. You'll save pennies while they print cash flow. And one day, you'll look up and realize the ladder you spent your life climbing was leaning against the wrong wall. That is the fate of the financially unconscious, not because they're lazy, not because they're unworthy, but because they never questioned the script. They thought discipline meant obeying. They thought safety was wealth. But safety is the slowest poison of potential. It lulls you into comfort. It whispers, at least you're not starving. And before you know it, you've traded your fire for familiarity. But you weren't born for average. You weren't born to be a cog in someone else's machine. You were born to build. To lead. To own. And ownership requires more than ambition, it requires transformation. You must shift from consumer to creator. From worker to investor. From follower to visionary. That doesn't happen overnight, it happens through decision. And the most powerful decision you'll ever make is this. I refuse to work for money for the rest of my life. Say it again. Let it echo. Let it burn into your spirit. Because that decision isn't just about income, it's about identity. It's a declaration that you will no longer trade your soul for security. That you will no longer fear risk more than regret. That you will no longer wait for permission to become the architect of your freedom. And once you make that decision, you must back it with strategy. Start small. But start. Read. Study. Learn the language of money. Understand cash flow. Know the difference between good debt and bad debt. Learn how taxes work. Learn how systems scale. Start seeing every dollar not as income, but as an employee. Where is this dollar going? Is it building? Or is it bleeding? Is it buying freedom? Or feeding a facade? This is where the wealthy win, not by working harder, but by thinking deeper. They don't ask, can I afford this? They ask, what is the opportunity cost of this? Because every purchase is a fork in the road, and you're either buying someone else's dream, or funding your own. There is a war being fought every day, not on battlefields, but in boardrooms, in bank accounts, in the minds of men and women who've been conditioned to survive instead of thrive. It's not about who has more talent. It's about who has more clarity. Clarity is the currency of the wealthy. When you know exactly what you're building, why you're building it, and how your money will fuel it, the fog lifts. The distractions fade. The opinions vanish. You don't need validation when you have vision. You don't chase trends when you've claimed truth. Because the wealthy? They don't follow the crowd. They observe it. They study its habits, its fears, its addictions, and then they position themselves on the other side of the transaction. While others scroll, they scale. While others consume, they create. While others fear debt, they leverage it as fuel, not fire. Most people run from risk. The wealthy study it, manage it, harness it. Because they understand this simple law, nothing great is built without risk. You can play it safe, but safety has a ceiling. You can stick to the middle, but the middle never makes history. You want to be free? Then get comfortable being uncomfortable. That's where wealth is born. In late nights studying balance sheets while others sleep. In early mornings building offers instead of routines. In daring to invest in yourself when the world tells you to play small. Because the greatest asset you'll ever own isn't real estate, stocks, or crypto. It's you. Your skill. Your mindset. Your adaptability. Your capacity to solve problems, to create value, to lead, to grow. Assets don't come first. Identity does. You don't become wealthy, you align with the habits, the thoughts, the decisions of a wealthy person, and the money follows. Money is never the goal. It's the byproduct of a transformed mind. A mind that sees opportunities where others see limits. A mind that creates income without trading time. A mind that chooses discipline over dopamine, vision over validation, and freedom over fear. You want to stop working for money? Then become someone money respects. Because money flows to clarity. Money flows to creators. Money flows to leaders. You're not broke because you lack money. You're broke because you haven't yet stepped into the identity that attracts wealth. And that is where the real work begins. This is the truth most never face. The journey to financial freedom is not external. It's internal. It's a battle of identity before it becomes a strategy of income. Because if you give a broke mindset $1 million, they'll lose it. But if you give a wealthy mindset 10 cents, they'll multiply it. Why? Because money is not the root, mindset is. Money only magnifies who you already are. And if who you are is fearful, impulsive, undisciplined, unsure, money will expose it. Money will amplify it. And eventually, money will leave. But when you build from the inside out, when you build character before cash, clarity before capital, responsibility before revenue, then money doesn't control you. You control it. That's when the shift happens. That's when you stop chasing money, and money starts chasing you. Because the truth is, wealth is not about accumulation, it's about alignment. Aligned habits. Aligned values. Aligned actions. And most importantly, an aligned identity, one that sees you as the creator, not the victim. As the driver, not the passenger. As the investor, not the consumer. Look at the greats. Andrew Carnegie didn't wait for approval. He declared he'd dominate steel before he owned a single factory. Walt Disney saw an empire of imagination, while others laughed at his drawings and bankruptcies. Henry Ford built automobiles for the masses, while critics mocked the idea of cars replacing horses. They didn't see the world as it was. They saw it as it could be. And they made decisions from that vision, not their current circumstance. So the question is not, can I afford to think like the wealthy? The question is, can I afford not to? Every day you delay is a day you feed the system, instead of freeing yourself from it. Every day you play small is a day your future children pay the price. Because wealth isn't just about you. It's about who you're becoming, for the ones you love, for the ones who follow you, for the legacy you leave behind long after you're gone. You think your kids need more stuff? No. They need a blueprint. They need to see what it looks like when someone takes full ownership of their life, financially, mentally, spiritually. They need to see that you don't work for money. Money works for you. That's how cycles are broken. That's how families are changed. That's how generations are lifted. And it all starts with one radical decision. I will no longer live in financial ignorance. Because ignorance isn't bliss. It's bondage. Bondage disguised as a paycheck. As a title. As a retirement plan that never really sets you free. You've been sold the illusion of wealth, but not the substance of it. You've been taught how to earn, not how to own. Taught how to save, but not how to scale. Taught how to budget, but never how to build. Because if you learn how to build, they can't control you. If you learn how to multiply, they can't manipulate you. And once you learn how to think like an investor, not a laborer, you become dangerous to the system that depends on your dependency. Let them call you crazy. Let them call you obsessed. Because all visionaries were mocked before they were studied. All pioneers were doubted before they were followed. All wealthy minds were misunderstood until the world caught up to the world they already saw. Your wealth begins in the unseen. In the visions you haven't spoken yet. In the dreams you've kept buried beneath your 9-to-5 mask. But here's the moment of truth. You don't need more time, you need more intention. Because what you do with the next hour reveals everything about the next decade. Are you scrolling? Consuming? Escaping? Or are you studying? Planning? Building? Freedom isn't won in grand gestures. It's earned in small, repeated, relentless decisions. When you say no to that impulse purchase and yes to buying the stock instead. When you invest in a course instead of a night out. When you spend Saturday building the system, not escaping the one you're trapped in. That's what makes the difference. The wealthy aren't lucky, they're intentional. They don't spend more. They allocate better. They don't hustle harder. They build smarter. They don't avoid failure. They learn faster. Because they understand this law. Every dollar must have a job. Every moment must have a mission. No more random spending. No more passive wishing. No more waiting for someone else to unlock the life you were born to create. You are the vault. The code is written in discipline. The key is action. And the door opens when you stop trading your time and start building your time machine. Yes, that's what assets are. Time machines. Buy enough of them, and one day, you stop working. But your income doesn't. That's not a fantasy, that's financial intelligence. And that begins not with money, but with mentality. Mentality is everything. Because the outer world is just a mirror, it reflects what you believe, what you expect, what you're willing to fight for. And if you believe money is evil, it will avoid you. If you believe success is reserved for others, it will pass you by. But if you believe wealth is a tool, a weapon for freedom, for impact, for legacy, then your entire relationship with it transforms. You stop chasing it. You start commanding it. Not through arrogance, but through awareness. Through understanding that every wealthy person you admire didn't start wealthy. They started aware. Aware of the rules of the game. Aware of how money flows. Aware that schools don't teach freedom, they teach obedience. And if you don't teach yourself, if you don't re-educate your mind, you'll end up overworked, overtaxed, and underfulfilled, with nothing but a gold-plated cage to show for it. So start asking different questions. Don't ask, how do I make more money? Ask, how do I create more value? Because money follows value. Money chases solutions. Money honors leadership, risk, and clarity. When you solve a big problem for many people, money has no choice but to flow to you. So stop waiting for the raise. Stop waiting for the market to get better. Stop waiting for the world to change. You change. You raise your financial IQ. You develop skills that scale. You build income that doesn't need you to clock in. You become the producer, not the pawn. Because money is not loyal to time. It's loyal to leverage. The wealthiest don't work more, they build systems that work without them. They earn while they sleep. They scale without burning out. They invest in assets, real estate, businesses, intellectual property, content, code, capital. They understand this law. If it only makes money when you show up, it's not an asset. It's a leash. And freedom can't be built with leashes. It's built with leverage. Built with ownership. Built with the courage to stop fitting in and start thinking free. That is your edge. That is your revolution. The system wants workers. But you were born to be a warrior. A financial warrior. A legacy builder. The one who turns debt into discipline. Fear into fuel. And limitation into liberation. Liberation doesn't come wrapped in comfort. It comes wrapped in responsibility. Because the price of freedom is ownership. Ownership of your choices. Ownership of your mindset. Ownership of your time, your energy, your dollars, your future. And most people run from that. They'd rather blame the system, the economy, their boss, their past. But blame is the language of bondage. Responsibility is the language of the rich. It's what separates the few who rise from the many who remain stuck. You want financial freedom? Then understand, nobody's coming to save you. Not the government. Not your job. Not your degrees or your retirement plan. The only one who can save you is you. But not the you that's been tamed by conformity. Not the you that's been dulled by routine. The real you. The one that hears this message and feels something shaking loose inside. The one who's tired of pretending. Tired of surviving. Tired of watching others live the life they dream of while they settle for the life they were told to accept. The truth is, most people are not lazy. They're just lost. No direction. No blueprint. No financial compass. So they drift. Year after year. Working harder. Saving scraps. Hoping something changes. But nothing changes unless you do. And the change begins not with a new job, but with a new philosophy. Rich Dad taught this: the poor and middle class work for money. The rich make money work for them. Let that sear into your mind like a brand. Money is not your master, it's your servant. It's not the goal, it's the fuel. It's not what you chase, it's what you attract when you become valuable enough, disciplined enough, clear enough to handle it with wisdom. The wealthy don't see dollars. They see power. Power to buy time. Power to make impact. Power to control their lives. And power is not given, it's earned. Earned through study. Earned through sacrifice. Earned through grinding in the dark while the rest of the world distracts itself with noise. But if you can stay focused, if you can delay pleasure, master your impulses, and invest like your life depends on it, you will rise. Not overnight. But inevitably. Because the truth is, success is not magic. It's math. Discipline plus clarity. Vision plus execution. Learning plus repetition. That's the formula. And once you own it, really own it, you can predict your freedom like sunrise. You'll stop hoping. And start knowing. Knowing changes everything. When you know you're on the path, fear fades. When you know your plan compounds, patience grows. When you know who you are, distractions lose their power. The poor seek guarantees. The wealthy build certainty. Not through luck, through design. They design their days. They design their income. They design their destiny. Because they understand, the future doesn't just happen, it's engineered. It's not about wishing for a better life. It's about building one. Block by block. Asset by asset. Principle by principle. You don't escape the rat race by working harder in it. You escape by stepping outside it. By thinking in terms of cash flow, not just income. By understanding that the person with the most freedom isn't the one with the biggest paycheck, it's the one with the most passive income. Because income that never stops buys time that never ends. And time, not money, is the real flex. You want to impress people? Don't show them your car, show them your calendar. Show them the Tuesday afternoon with your kids. Show them the morning workouts without alarms. Show them the time to create, think, breathe, and not because you're rich, but because you freed yourself. That's what real wealth is. Not status. Not gold. Freedom. Freedom to choose. Freedom to walk away. Freedom to say no, not out of fear, but out of power. And that power is earned in the shadows. In the months nobody sees. In the early mornings and late nights when you're still learning what others think they already know. Because most people stop learning the moment they finish school. But the rich, the truly rich, never stop. They read. They listen. They study wealth like athletes study tape. Because wealth isn't a one-time hit, it's a lifelong habit. And like all habits, it starts small. It starts with tracking every dollar like it's a soldier. With treating every hour like it's an investor. With seeing your time not as something to pass, but as something to plant. You don't waste time when you know it compounds. You don't waste energy when you know it builds equity. This is the mindset shift that separates the enslaved from the self-made. The broke spend to escape. The wealthy invest to expand. And the difference between escape and expansion is the difference between surviving life and designing it. You were born to design it. Not just to drift through decades, checking boxes someone else created for you. Not just to die with a resume, but to live with a legacy. You are the architect of your life. But you cannot build a mansion of freedom with the bricks of mediocrity. You cannot build generational wealth with the habits of instant gratification. Look around, most people are addicted to consumption. They consume entertainment. They consume opinions. They consume debt. But consumption is the diet of the average. Creation is the diet of the wealthy. Creators own assets. Consumers rent illusions. Creators buy time. Consumers sell it. And every time you choose distraction over discipline, you're renting your future to someone else's dream. But every time you choose to create, whether it's a product, a brand, a business, a system, you take back the deed to your destiny. Understand this, you don't need to be a genius. You don't need a perfect plan. You just need to decide, today, that your life will not be spent in financial slavery. Because here's what they won't tell you. The system is built to keep you just comfortable enough to not question it. They give you promotions instead of ownership. They give you benefits instead of equity. They give you a desk instead of direction. And every year, they raise your pay just enough to keep you there. But not enough to set you free. You are not here to climb a ladder inside a burning building. You are here to build the ladder. The one that takes you from scarcity to sovereignty. The one that takes you from punching clocks to creating clocks. Because the real shift happens when you stop thinking like an employee and start thinking like a founder. The employee trades hours for security. The founder trades vision for freedom. And that's who you must become. Not in name, in nature. Because founders don't wait for opportunities. They create them. Founders don't shrink in chaos. They thrive in it. Founders don't fear failure. They leverage it. You will fail. Yes. You will make mistakes. Absolutely. But failure is only fatal to those who fear it more than they fear regret. And if you're honest, if you're truly awake, regret is the real enemy. Not poverty. Not risk. Not rejection. Regret is the soul whispering what could have been if you had only believed in yourself sooner. So don't wait for the world to give you permission. Don't wait for the right time. You are the right time. Right now. Right here. This moment, this breath, is the one that could separate your old story from the new one you were meant to write. Because you are not here to repeat your past. You are here to rewrite it. To break the cycles that broke your family. To shatter the ceilings that silenced your ambition. To flip the script from survival to significance. You are the one. The bridge between generations. The one who decided that poverty ends with you. That ignorance ends with you. That fear ends with you. It won't be easy. No transformation ever is. But ease was never the goal, elevation was. You weren't built for average. You weren't made for comfort. You were made for impact. And you will only create impact by becoming someone new. Someone who leads their money instead of being led by it. Someone who multiplies instead of just manages. Someone who teaches others how to think, not what to think. Because that's what Rich Dad always taught. Money is just the beginning. The real power is in who you become through money. The financial mindset isn't about stacking dollars. It's about becoming the type of person who can create value at will. Who can turn adversity into opportunity. Who can turn one stream into 7. And who isn't just rich on paper, but wealthy in mind. Because mindset is the root. Money is the fruit. And fruit can be lost, mindset cannot. They can take the job. They can drain the account. They can shift the market. But they can't take your mind once it's awakened. They can't reverse your education once you've seen behind the curtain. They can't stop the flow when you become the faucet. That is your real security. Not the pension. Not the paycheck. Not the portfolio. It's the person you become when you decide that financial literacy is your duty, not a luxury. Because if you don't learn it, your kids will repeat you. If you don't master it, your bloodline will borrow forever. And if you don't change, no one after you ever gets the chance to. You're not just investing for you. You're investing for names you haven't met yet. For futures you'll never see. And that's what separates a hustler from a legacy builder. A hustler chases income. A builder creates impact. This is your time to build. Build with urgency. Because time is your most precious capital. And no one, no matter how rich, can buy it back once it's spent. The clock is ticking for all of us. But those who understand wealth don't let the ticking terrify them, they let it ignite them. Every day is a brick. Every decision is a tool. Every dollar is a seed. And what you build now, what you plant in this season of your life, determines the harvest your children will eat from. So build with intention. Build with obsession. Build with the knowledge that every asset you acquire, every lesson you absorb, every discipline you master, echoes beyond you. The world needs more than rich people. It needs awake people. It needs powerful people. It needs free people who understand how the game is played and who have the courage to teach others how to play it better. You can be that person. You can be the one who didn't just chase success, but who stood in the fire of transformation and came out forged in purpose. Because purpose is the only thing that makes this whole journey worth it. Money without purpose is empty. Success without soul is failure in disguise. But when your wealth becomes a tool for service, when your abundance lifts others, when your freedom inspires freedom in those who watch you, that's when you've won. That's when you're no longer working for money. You're working for meaning. And the money, it follows. Because money is drawn to clarity, to conviction, to creators. You are a creator. You are the builder of futures, the investor of moments, the protector of dreams. And this world is not going to hand you your legacy. You must claim it. Through belief. Through grit. Through relentless pursuit. So don't just dream about freedom, design it. Don't just talk about change, embody it. Don't just survive in this system, transcend it. Because the greatest rebellion you can lead is to become so free, so full, so wealthy in spirit and substance, that you no longer play their game. You build your own. You write your own rules. You set your own hours. You leave your own trail, and you light it so brightly that others can follow it home. So hear this now, and let it echo through every cell of your being. Stop working for money. Start making money work for you. This isn't a quote. It's not a motto. It's your new identity. The moment you live this, not just say it, not just hope for it, but live it, is the moment your life breaks open. And when it does, the world will never look the same again. Because once the veil is lifted, once you see the truth about money, how it flows, how it grows, how it obeys those who understand it, you can never unsee it. You start walking differently. Not with arrogance, but with awareness. You stop asking for permission. You stop chasing approval. You stop trading your time like it's disposable. You begin to walk like a person who owns their value. Who knows that the greatest return is never found in comfort, but in clarity. And clarity comes from choosing yourself. From deciding that no matter what the world says you're worth, you're going to become priceless. They won't see it at first. They'll doubt you. Mock you. Call you obsessed. Let them. The obsessed change the world. The misunderstood build empires. The ridiculed create revolutions. Every titan you admire, Carnegie, Edison, Ford, Disney, they weren't celebrated in the beginning. They were ridiculed. Rejected. Resisted. But they had something the average mind never dares to develop. A definite purpose and an unbreakable belief. Not belief in outcomes, belief in themselves. Belief that even if the whole world went blind, their vision would still lead the way. Belief that even if they lost it all, they'd rebuild, faster, smarter, stronger. Because wealth isn't what you hold in your hand. It's what you hold in your mind. The bank account can rise and fall. The assets can come and go. But the mindset? The identity? The philosophy that burns in your soul? That's untouchable. That's where true freedom lives. You may start with nothing. No inheritance. No network. No roadmap. But if you start with belief, real, unshakable belief, you've already won the first and greatest battle. Because belief is the soil where all wealth grows. It's the birthplace of every action. Every sacrifice. Every late night and early morning when no one's watching, but you still show up. Still build. Still study. Still fight. Because you're not doing this for applause. You're doing it for legacy. For peace. For freedom from the invisible chains that hold most people hostage their entire lives. You were never meant to live in chains. Not the golden handcuffs of a high salary. Not the mental chains of security. Not the silent, invisible shackles of fear passed down from generation to generation. You were meant to be free. But freedom doesn't come in the mail. It doesn't fall into your lap. It doesn't show up wrapped in a degree or a paycheck or a promotion. Freedom is forged. In the fires of failure. In the discipline of delayed gratification. In the courage to walk away from what is safe and toward what is significant. The rich don't just have more money. They have a different set of rules. They don't ask, "Can I afford this?" They ask, "How can I create this?" They don't say, "That's too risky." They say, "What's the cost of staying the same?" They don't fear the system. They build their own. Because they understand the most important truth about money. Money is not the goal. Money is the servant. A tool. A force. A reflection of value. And if you want more of it, you must become more valuable. More disciplined. More focused. More skilled. More invested in your growth than your comfort. Because the most valuable people in this world are not the loudest, they are the most capable. Capable of solving problems. Capable of managing pressure. Capable of turning ideas into income and setbacks into strategies. And that level of capability? That kind of personal power? It comes from making the hardest, most unpopular decision you'll ever make. Choosing long-term freedom over short-term approval. They'll laugh at you now. Until they watch you live a life they'll never touch. They'll call you crazy. Until they're asking for your advice. They'll say you're too intense. Until they see your children inherit choices they never had. You don't need everyone to understand. You just need to remember this. You are not building for the next 5 minutes. You are building for the next 5 decades. And when you build like that, when your moves are made from legacy, not ego, your whole life begins to align. You wake up with purpose. You walk with peace. And you sleep at night not wondering what could have been, but knowing you became what was required. You didn't settle. You didn't conform. You didn't stay broke in a world full of opportunity. You stopped working for money. And you made money work for you. And now you stand at the threshold of a life unrecognizable to your former self. A life not driven by survival, but sculpted by strategy. You don't wake up to an alarm clock anymore. You wake up to vision. You don't ask for raises. You create revenue. You don't fear recessions. You prepare for them. Position for them. Profit from them. Because you've learned what the rich have always known. True wealth isn't built in bull markets, it's built in belief. In chaos. In clarity. In the moments when others fold and you double down. Because the wealthy play the long game. They don't react, they respond. They don't chase, they attract. They don't follow trends, they build systems that outlast them. And the system you've built? It starts in the mind. Fueled by values. Driven by purpose. Executed with precision. This is the power they never taught you in school. The chapters they left out of the textbooks. The conversations you were never invited into. But you're in the room now. And you're not just here to listen. You're here to lead. Because this world doesn't need another employee waiting for retirement. It needs more warriors of wealth. More architects of freedom. More people like you. People who chose the harder road. Who broke the mold. Who didn't just chase money, but made money chase them. And that's the difference. Between the old you and the new one. Between the financial victim and the financial visionary. You've crossed the line now. There's no going back. No fitting into boxes that once confined you. No watering down your dreams to make others comfortable. You've stepped into your power. And when power meets purpose, history changes. So let them doubt. Let them question. Let them watch. Because your results will speak so loud. You'll never have to explain yourself again. This is your moment. This is your rise. And when it's all said and done, they won't remember what you earned. They'll remember what you unleashed. So build boldly. Think independently. Invest fearlessly. And live like a soul that finally remembered its worth. The game is yours now. Stop working for money. Start making money work for you. And never, ever, forget who you are becoming. You are not the worker. You are the owner. You are not the pawn. You are the player. You are not the follower. You are the founder. And your future has just begun.